Greetings, my friends. It is Carrie Konyha, Sedona Psychic, shamanic healing practitioner at holisticspsychic.com, chiming in with a little bit of an astrological energy update for the month of March. We've got some significant shifts going on. So I just want to give us all a heads up as usual so that we can be working with the energies more consciously. And then also some of the things I'm going to talk about today are probably going to answer some questions around why so many of us are feeling such intense shifts. We're really coming into a season of change, but new beginnings. And the energies this month that are happening on the astrological level really are more than likely the biggest energy shifts that we're going to have for the year, the rest of this year ahead. So it's a really great time to be moving forward more consciously into the energies. Now I'm going to start by backtracking a little bit and talk just a little bit about the empowerment practices, the mastery teachings that are connected to Pisces season, because we're really in the height of Pisces season right now. And some of what I shared in the previous videos about Pisces season are really going to come in handy right now as far as empowerment tools that we can harness and use to work with the energy. So let's remember that the masteries, the personal growth masteries of Pisces season are connected to intuiting, dreaming, imagining, but it's also about reconnecting with spirit. It's about transcendence and bringing our best potentials into the now. And I want to start with that because with the energies that are going on right now, like literally right now as I speak, today, March 1st, we do have a conjunction going on between Jupiter, Venus, and Chiron. Chiron is the archetype of the wounded healer. It shows us where our deepest core wounds are, but also where we have the capacity for the deepest healing and return to empowerment. With Venus in the picture, Jupiter in the picture, Jupiter is about growth, expansion, which can serve to illuminate our awareness around old wounds that maybe have been subconsciously at work behind the scenes. And with Venus in the mix, it brings in relationship dynamics, matters having to do with love, self-love, relationships with others. It's about our values. And I want to start with this. For one, it's happening today, March 1st. But for two, this is very connected to bringing our best potentials forward into the now, because the key is in being in the now. Many of us are experiencing significant times of change in our life, which I'm going to get into the reason for that in a little bit. But, you know, with new beginnings comes endings, right? And with endings comes staying a little bit stuck in the past, ruminating about the past. And so one of the best practices that we can do for ourselves right now is being really diligent about keeping our focus in the here and now, being really diligent about what we choose to feed or pay attention to regarding our thoughts and our feelings, and not allowing the things from the past that we might still be working towards wrapping our head around, not getting so lost in that cycle that it's keeping us in a lower vibration or a more dense energy, right? A part of bringing our best potential to the here and now is being in as much of an authentic, yet open, aware, and harmonized presence that we can possibly be, which means anchoring our presence in the here and now, not getting sucked into ruminating the past or fears of future. So honestly, that's the very best practice that we can practice all month. And then the other aspect about the Pisces season mastery teachings about transcendence. We're transcending our wounds. We're transcending ego-based attachments, so to speak. And I'm saying about transcending our wounds because the conjunction with Chiron, Jupiter, and Venus may very well be highlighting, triggering, or activating old wounds around relationships. But however wounds are showing up for you right now, are showing up so that we can heal them. We can have another deeper layer of awareness around them so we don't have to repeat the lesson or the cycle, so to speak. And the best way to have deeper awareness is being present with ourselves in the here and now and deepening our connection with spirit, deepening our connection to our own sense of spirit self, our sense of connection with spirit in life. So we have that conjunction today. We've more than likely been feeling it for the past few days, if not the past week. It's going to continue to trickle in to the next few days. And then as we're coming into tomorrow, March 2nd, we have Mercury conjunct Saturn in Aquarius. And what I feel for this intuitively, if we look at Saturn as being the planet of maturity, responsibilities, structure, it can also be linked to karma in some ways. And then Mercury being there as well, both of these planets together in Aquarius, I feel that this is about renewing whatever our personal sense of commitment is to the collective. How are we showing up, especially for those of you who are evolutionary souls, those of you who are on that path of really being committed to being the light, bringing the light, being a person who is holding space for the advancement of awakening and consciousness. This conjunction between Mercury and Saturn is illuminating our awareness around what our commitment is to the big picture, the collective, how we want to be putting our energy forward. So this is making me, even though Saturn is about manifestation, structure, responsibility, things like that, when we're looking at Aquarian energy, it's leading edge, it's the collective, it's the future. And so it really feels like it's about rising into more of a 5D awareness, right? So 3D meaning we're sort of stuck in the here and now energies from our perspective and bringing a little bit of a limited scope, where the 5D could look more like a bird's eye view, where we can see the bigger picture, bigger possibilities. So I definitely invite us to keep that in mind as we're coming into this first week of March. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about here that's really significant is that one of the reasons we have so much possibility for metamorphosis and transformation this year is because we have more than usual amounts of planets shifting into different signs. And anytime that happens, it brings in new energies. And we've got a lot of that going on this month. And some of these transits are longer term, especially with what's going on with Saturn and Pluto, which I'm going to talk about in a moment here. So lots of fresh energies coming in. We might all feel a little topsy-turvy or a little bit ungrounded or a little bit unbalanced, a little bit like, I don't want to say roller coaster, but like we're standing on a teetering floor in a fun house, right? Trying to get our footing. We don't have a lot of earth energy showing up in the astrology this month. And so that could be one of our challenges, is there's a need for grounding. Later on in the month, we do have Venus coming into Taurus, which will help with that. But being a little bit more mindful of a need for grounding is definitely a good strategy, because the element emphasis this month is mostly going to be water, which is fluid and can be a little bit anomalous, like we're seeing through the fog of life. And then as we come into later in the month, it's going to be more fire, which is ambition and drive. But we want to take care to put extra energy into being centered, grounded, present in the here and now. So let me talk about what's going on with Saturn. On the 5th of March, Saturn moves into Pisces. So we're already in Pisces season. We've got some Pisces energy going on, and we're going to have a little bit more going on before we come into Aries. Saturn goes into Pisces actually on the 7th, not the 5th. But this is a transit that hasn't happened for 30 years. So right now, and this is partially why we're all feeling such intense energies of transformation, because this past month has been about closing out a 30-year sort of karmic cycle. I talked about this in the last video. One thing you could do is look back to see if you were alive then, what kinds of things were going on in your life between the years of 1993 and 1996. And more than likely, you'll look back and see where there was this energy of things wrapping up, things coming into completion or closure, but simultaneously new positive, exciting chapters opening up. And that's the energy that we're coming into now. Saturn is going to be in Pisces for 3 years. So the energy of endings and beginnings, exciting new opportunities, possibilities that are showing up now are going to be shaping up over the next 3 years, but that cycle is continuing as Saturn begins its new journey around the entire zodiac, beginning in Aries after 3 years from now, and then again this next 30-year cycle. So that's really significant. The best way to look to see how this is impacting your chart would be to look to see where the Pisces sector of your chart is. Now, if you are a Pisces sun, Pisces ascendant or rising sign, or Pisces moon, like me, you're gonna feel this a little bit more. And a really good way to learn astrology is through applying it to your practical life, knowing what's going on astrologically, looking to see how it's showing up in your chart, and then noticing what the effects are in your daily life is really a good way to get acquainted with how the archetypes of the energies are working for you. So Saturn, again, is the planet of structure. It's about manifestation, it's responsibility, it's maturity. It can also be about governments and things like that. And it can be connected to karma. It's also related to the archetype of father energy. And in Pisces, on the high octave of this could be an energy that really enables us to experience, create, and manifest what our biggest goals and dreams are. Now, each planet, each zodiac sign has its high vibration conscious aspect, and then its unconscious aspect, which can be lower vibrational frequencies and energies. So on the low vibration level, we have to be careful to not shift into moody broodiness. Let's remember that Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and that energy on the unconscious level can be really moody and broody, especially with Saturn and Pisces. So that's the thing to watch out for, which is why I already mentioned at the beginning of the video that the way to navigate that is being really diligent about being aware of the quality of thoughts that are looping in your mind. And if those thoughts aren't affirming thoughts or positive or supportive thoughts, then have it in your practice to find a way to cancel clear those thoughts and refocus into the present. Refocus on where there's possibilities, potentials, options. Stay focused on the goodness, the blessings, where there's gratitude. And that will help you to not shift into the possibility of the unconscious aspect of this transit. We also have a Mercury going into Pisces on March 2nd, which brings in dreamy, creative, and even artistic ideas and thoughts. So that's great, right? We may find creative insights, inspirations that serve to help us navigate forward into whatever situations are showing up in our lives right now, or whatever our plans are. But again, even with this transit, we can become delusional, like we're seeing the world through rose-colored glasses. I know that for me, as a Pisces moon in the 12th house, that's like an ongoing thing for me that I have to be aware of. I have a tendency to sometimes just wanting to give everybody the benefit of the doubt and trusting that everyone's inherently a good person and people want to do good and blah, blah, blah. And that has not worked to my favor at times in my life. So it's just about being aware and bringing things into balance and being willing to see things as they are rather than how we wish them to be, which is also a part of the theme of the new moon happening in March on the 22nd. And I'm just going to share here quickly that in accordance to indigenous wisdom teachings, the new moon in March is a lot about accepting the truth, accepting what our own inner truth is, accepting, acknowledging, and having a respect for other people's personal truths as well, right? We're all on our own sacred journey. We all have our own points of view and perceptions going on, and we all have a right to live in alignment with what those personal truths are. This moon is about us individually tuning into, acknowledging, and being in acceptance of the truth that's showing up in our lives so that we can advocate for ourselves, choose, and take action based on those actual truths, not the rose-colored glass version of things. But let me back up a little bit and talk about some of these other things that are happening before we get to the new moon later this month. We actually have the full moon happening on the 7th in the sign of Virgo. When the moon is in Virgo, remember the moon is about our sensing, feeling body, our inner private realm. And when the moon is in Virgo, it inspires us to want to be in some type of orderly harmony, cohesion, balance. So this is a time where we can begin to bring form, structure, organization to whatever some of our ideas have been floating around regarding how we want to be focusing our intent and moving forward. This full moon is giving us a little bit of boost of clarity, organization around our sensing, feeling intelligence, which supports us in devising plans, structures for moving forward in life or whatever the case may be for you. Okay, here I'm going to say that with this overview that I'm doing for the month of March, I'm really just touching upon the big picture, most significant transits that are happening. And I'm not talking so much about how all the transits are being aspected to each other, but I will be chiming in and sharing those things as we're progressing through the month as usual. But here, let me say that on the 16th, Venus goes into Taurus. Venus feels at home in Taurus. Venus rules Taurus. And Venus is about love, harmony, balance. It's about our values, our inherent values. Taurus is a grounded, sensual, sort of study wins the race type of energy. Venus in Taurus inspires us to create and experience harmony, beauty in all forms in our life. So this month, actually what I'm thinking about, we're going to be coming into the spring equinox soon. So with the full moon in Virgo, which is a lot about organization, and Venus going into Taurus, this actually is perfect energy for a deep spring cleaning, purge, organization of your home. And that can be a really potent empowerment practice because we're literally clearing out old energy that we don't have use for anymore and optimizing the space and inviting fresh energy in. So definitely set aside some space. I would say between the full moon and the new moon, which happens on the 21st, try to do your spring cleaning actually in that time period, so that by the time we get to the new moon on the 21st, 22nd, you're already going to have all that energy done and your whole vibe is going to be fresh and primed and ready to embrace the energy of new beginnings that the spring equinox brings. We do have Mercury going into Aries on the 18th, which can bring in quick-wittedness type of energy, sudden ideas, inspiration. Aries is a fire sign. It's the archetype of the spiritual warrior. Mercury is the messenger. It's about ideas, insights, the mind, things having to do with communication. And in Aries, it becomes a little bit more passionate, a little bit more fiery. So it's likely that we will have sudden insights, inspirations. We have ideas that we're passionate about. Our style of communication might feel more passionate. And so on that level, we do need to be aware of that passion not turning into like an aggression energy, because that would be like the lower vibrational frequency of that. It could turn into aggressive mental energy. So just be aware of that as well. And then by the time we get to the 20th, the sun goes into Aries. And on the 21st, we have the new moon in the sign of Aries. So you can see as we're coming into the later part of the month, the energies are shifting from the more watery, intuitive, creative, dreamy to more of a fiery, ambitious, driving force, which is really connected to that spring equinox energy. Spring equinox is a shift of seasons. We're coming into springtime. It's the most significant, important, and empowering time to really have a strong dedication to whatever your intent is for the rest of the year ahead. And then here's the big thing. On the 23rd, Pluto moves into the sign of Aquarius, coming out of Capricorn for the first time since 2008. So this is going to be a really significant shift. Aquarius, again, being about the bigger picture in life, about the collective, collaborating. It's the idea of we rather than I. It's futuristic. It's innovative. It's also about our social circles. It's connected to groups, organizations. So we can expect these types of themes to be being more highlighted. And this transit, it's going to dip back into Capricorn in June. But by the time we get into 2024, Pluto stays in Aquarius for 20 years. So this is a significant shift. And there's going to be personal transformations, metamorphosis that happens with this, and then of course globally as well. I really feel, because Aquarius is connected to innovation, technology. A lot of people have already been talking about the advancements in AI, artificial intelligence, that's going to be happening over the next 20 years. And that's very much par for the course with Pluto in Aquarius. But I'm going to take it a step further and share with you guys that I strongly am getting this download. And this is the first time that I'm saying this publicly. I strongly feel that by the time this transit is complete, which is going to be 20 years from now, but I think it's going to happen way before that 20-year mark. I would venture to say in the next decade, we are going to acknowledge ourselves in humanity as galactic citizens. And that's because within the next decade or so, we will have undeniable proof that we are not alone in the universe, that there's other intelligent life forms out there in some way or another, whether that's through extraterrestrial visitation or our science foundations here discovering life on other planets. One way or another, that's happening. And so that's really gonna cause a huge paradigm shift. We're no longer, out in the little boonies of the universe being our own little human race. We are a part of a galactic citizenship, so to speak. And Earth has its own wisdom to share. And I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. I recently moved into a new office. Some of you who are my clients know this because I had a flood in the building and blah, blah, blah. So when I moved my office, I renamed my healing center and I named it Earth Wisdom Healing Arts, because of that download of awareness that I have about us within the next decade or so identifying as galactic citizens. And again, we on Earth, we have our own medicine to share. We have our own unique ways of healing that are indeed very interconnected to working with the elements here on Earth, the cycles here on Earth. And we have our own wisdom to contribute, not only to other humans on Earth, but galactically. So I'm just putting that out there. I'm just saying, you can let me know in the comments if this resonates as truth for you, or whatever your take on that is. I would love to hear your insight and opinion on that. Now, I also want to say that I consider myself to be even though I'm a psychic reader, I'm a Capricorn, I've got a bunch of planets in Virgo. I'm really grounded, right? I'm that person who's like super grounded and practical, yet super tapped in spiritually. And I would not say such a potentially outlandish sounding insight if I didn't feel it to be true in my heart and soul. So we'll see how it goes down, but we can expect that in the next decade. Okay, so, there's a lot of intricacies that are happening astrologically as we're going through the month with the different aspects, and I will talk about that in my weekly uploads. But just remember, knowing the energy helps us to work with it more consciously. And the ways that we can work with the energy consciously this month are very connected to bringing our highest and best energies and presence into the here and now. Practice presence. Practice being present. I talked about that in the last video. Practice being aware of, where are my thoughts taking me? What kinds of thoughts are taking up my mental real estate? And are these thoughts that are going to be supporting the quality of energy that I want to be living in? Or do I need to reel them in a little bit and redirect? Right? Also, because we're coming into spring, for those of you who have like a meditation space, a meditation altar, a prosperity altar in your home, this is a really good time to refresh that energy space. Greens, golds, flowers, fresh flowers, things that are reminiscent of growth, abundance, prosperity. Adorn your meditation space, your meditation altar, your prosperity altar with things that to you are clear-cut reminders of the growth journey that you're on, the healing that you have accomplished, the empowerment that you're ready to step into. And really working with that altar as a tool. I do have a really old video on this channel that is about how to create an altar. I'll post it up here so you can check that out. It's many years old. It was, back when I had a YouTube channel, but I wasn't really putting videos up. I really just started focusing on putting videos up here weekly when we first went into COVID lockdown. So this channel is pretty new and it's still small, which reminds me to invite you all to, if you've gotten anything out of this video or any of my other videos, if you could take a moment to like it and subscribe and maybe even share it. That really does help this channel get more exposure. My goal with this channel is really just to support us all in our journey in healing, growth, empowerment. So if you resonate with these teachings and you'd like to share, get the word out about these teachings, I definitely invite you to share the video, like, and subscribe. Okay, let me pull a card. I'm working with my Osho Zen Tarot today. I'm going to pull 3 cards and we're just going to get an extra little message from Spirit here. Okay, for those of you who are watching this, take a moment before I pull these cards, take a moment to tune into something that you would like clarity, insight, guidance, or direction on. Because although these messages are collective, that are supporting us all in some way, if you take a moment to tune into something you do want insight on, then the message that you get from this can be connected to whatever your inquiry is. So take a moment here as I'm shuffling. What would you love clarity, insight, guidance, direction on at this point in your life? And then you can let me know in the comments how the cards that came up are addressing that specific question for you, if you would like to share that. Okay, here we go. Whew. What do we have here? Silence, maturity, and patience. The silence card looks like this. If you look really close, you can see like a face in the sky here, peaceful, eyes closed. The moon is illuminating the third eye. So the silence here isn't so much about not talking. Silence as in finding your inner space of neutrality. And that really is a must in being able to access your intuitive knowing. First, we have to be in a space of neutrality where we're setting aside our own personal thoughts, our own personal feelings. which really is the act of being present in the here and now. Practicing that inner stillness, that inner silence, is what's going to open the gateways to deeper awareness for you. For those of you who have had readings, you know that before I start any reading, I take a moment, I close my eyes, I tune in with the person's energy. I'm taking a few deep breaths, as I also recommend to my client to take a few deep breaths. But on my end, what I'm doing that is I'm letting go of my own thoughts, I'm letting go of my own feelings, and I'm coming into a neutral awareness. And that for me is what opens the gateway for me to channel messages for other people and to read their energy. So we also have the maturity card. This is very connected to what we've been talking about with Saturn, right? Now look how lavish and lush the energies of this card are. With maturity comes enrichment. Owning your maturity. With Saturn moving into Pisces, some of us are going to be having a Saturn return based on our natal chart, which is a time of maturing. Saturn transits are times or markers of maturity on our path, spiritual maturity that oftentimes is very linked to awareness. And we have the Patience card coming up, and it did come up reversed, so let me take a moment here. All right, I'm going to show it right side up first. The Patience card right side up, you can see phases of the moon, a woman who's very pregnant and ready to give birth, but it's like, okay, we have to wait for the divine timing of when the baby is coming, which could also be the birth of a new endeavor or something like that. And with the cycles of the moon, you know, there's a predictable cycle. The moon takes time to grow full. We can't push it or force it. No matter how bad we want that moon to be full right now, it will be full in its own time. So the Patience card is about acknowledging divine timing. But what happens when it comes up reversed? When it comes reversed, it could be that we're holding on to something whose time has come and gone. Right? The baby's wanting to come, and no, I'm going to try to hold it in. I don't want to let go. And so when this card is coming up, it's definitely speaking of what feels in divine alignment to release, to surrender to let go of. And trusting the timing of that, and trusting that in that letting go is where we ultimately can have a new beginning, a fresh energy coming in. This month is very, very much about a season of change and new beginnings. But with new beginnings, again, comes a release, a letting go in ways that create space for the new beginnings that are showing up. So I invite you to share in the comments anything you would like to contribute to the discussion that was happening here today. I'm gonna wrap it up here for now, but I'm gonna chime in next week with an energy update with more specifics about that particular week. We are coming into the full moon, so it'll be the full moon episode and the energies around that. So in the meantime, I love staying connected with all of you and hearing from all of you in the comments about what's going on or what your take on all of this is. So I look forward to reading your comments. Blessings, all my love, namaste. And I'll see you in the next one.